the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And if we might,
Thank you. Commissioners Marchand, Salwan,
Present.
Ariola, Canepa,
Here.
Fugazi, present. Blackie, here. Vice Chair Super,
Here.
Chair Craig Hensley,
here,
ex officio members. Do we have anyone on from StanCog?
Yes, I'm here from StanCog, Mayor Suze Wallen, Modesto.
Thank you. SJCog,
Ryan Niblock here on behalf of SJCOG.
thank you. SJRRC,
Good morning, Ken Baxter, RTD.
thank you. Caltrans,
Yes, this is Tom Dumas.
thank you. We have four.
thank you very much. Okay, if we can now move on to our next item of the agenda, which is public comment. Do you have any public comment on non-agenda items online?
Seeing none online.
None online and in the room? None seen in the room, so we will move on then to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Do we have any commissioners who have any items on the consent calendar that they would like more information on or to pull? Hearing none, is there anyone in the public online that would like to pull an item?
Seeing none online.
Or anyone in the room? Seeing none, we'll move quickly through the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
I will thank you. So I have a motion and a second. So if we can go ahead and do a roll call vote on that.
Thank you. Commissioners Marchand,
Here.
would you like to say that, you know, Salwan,
Aye.
Canepa,
Yes.
Fugazi,
Yes.
Blackie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zuber,
Yes.
Chair Craig Hensley.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Now, moving on to an update on our federal legislative advocacy. So we can ask Mr. Orlando to introduce this topic. Thank you.
Yes, as the commission knows, we have Burn Tide Inc. that provides us with support for our federal advocacy program. We work with them very closely. They provide us feedback on what's occurring in Washington, D.C., insight on federal grant programs, federal legislation, administration actions, all federal program comprehensively. And with us today is Matt Ginsberg, who's going to provide a PC update for the commission.
Welcome, Mr. Ginsberg.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to start off. You can go to the next slide. And I apologize. My business partner Jason Tayo also wanted to be here. It's spring break in DC, so he's unfortunately on a family trip. So for better or for worse, you're stuck with me. I think it's better, but he'll say otherwise. Just so you all know who we are, we've been fortunate to have a great partnership with you all since 2018 as your team in Washington. Our background is really we're kind of local government and public agency focused, really in the infrastructure and rail transportation space. We manage a number of clients in that realm, so we're pretty adept at understanding that world, and we like to think we have a lot of success in that space. So that's who I am and who we are. And if you go to the next slide, I'm going to just jump in to I just want to level set for you for kind of what the idea in Washington is for this year, and how that impacts your priorities at the Rail Commission. I'm going to leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So just if you have a burning question, let me know. But otherwise, there should be time at the end for questions. Really, the big thing that we've been teeing up for a number of years now in earnest, and will kind of continue to be managing and quarterbacking the rest of this year, is the big surface transportation reauthorization bill. This is the every 5-year or so bill that sets all the funding and policies for rail. the current bill, as many of you probably know, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, expires at the end of September of this year. So it's coming right up. It's been sort of debated for the last year or so. I'll touch on the legislative calendar in a moment, but really there's fairly limited legislative days this year between now and September, believe it or not. But nevertheless, both chambers are pressing ahead with trying to mark up their version of this bill, or this bill's successor in the next couple of months. The House maybe as soon as later this month, and the Senate maybe even next month. So we're kind of right in the thick of it this year. The chairman of the House T&I committee, the Transportation Committee, which oversees this, is Sam Graves. He received a waiver to continue on as chairman. But he just announced recently that he's retiring at the end of the year. So this is really kind of a top focus for him. He wants to get this done. This is sort of a legacy thing. But we'll see where the White House is on it and where the rest of Congress is. It's tough moving big pieces of legislation like this, as you all know, especially these days. So it's going to be an uphill effort, but they're still going to kind of forge ahead and see what they can get done before we get too far into campaign season. I just touched on it, but kind of layering the policy and the politics, right? We're in the middle of a midterm election. There's a number of other primaries coming up, especially in May. You are very familiar with the redistricting piece of this with Prop 50. There's other states that have gone through this as well. There's the potential for changes in leadership next Congress, which kind of makes this next few months sort of a pivotal time. Right, because depending on who's holding the pen and who's writing these bills, you may have a little bit more leverage in negotiation going into next Congress. So we'll see if that helps get this done or not. But nevertheless, there is this dynamic of there's an interest in getting this bill done, but there's just a short calendar to really move a bill of this stature. And to build on that a little bit, the Senate has basically 4 committees that need to act for this to happen. The House has 2, and it's challenging to get a bill of this size and dollar amount through if it's not, a very, very close to the top priority. So we'll see how this plays out throughout this year. As we get further along in the calendar, I think the discussion around extensions and lengths of extensions and funding amount of extensions will start to pick up. But right now, I think the focus is just at least in the spring trying to get a bill done. And as you may have seen, I know some of you are potentially coming to town here next month for the One Voice trip. The calendar has also been sort of a moving target this year. There's been a shift in at least the House calendar in late April and early May. The speaker has said publicly and sort of privately as well that he's looking to maybe give back part of July. So members have more time to campaign. So that even condenses this timeline even further, which makes it even harder. But as I'll touch on in a moment, maybe that'll be shifting here a little bit as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so just making this super relevant to you all, rail funding, sort of, I categorize this as past, present, and future. I just kind of I think it's helpful to level set just to give everyone a good understanding of where we came from and where we are and kind of what's to come. I will say for a commission our size, I know the needs are great, but we have been very successful in acquiring federal funds. I think the discretionary grant funding for an agency our size has been very successful. And on top of that, we've also, since they reinstated these congressionally directed spending or community project funding, what we used to call earmarks, we have received a lot of them. They've been, to implement them has been a little bit different story, but I'll say that the acquiring them, we've been fairly successful in the past. Just most recently, I highlighted here that we've been awarded roughly $2 million for installing PTC on the ACE route that overlays with the little short line that runs on the line. So that's been good. That's been something we've been working on for a couple of years now. They punted on these funds the last couple of years. So we did just get that across the finish line this year. So that's great. But moving forward, right, there's still one more fiscal year of funding under the IIJA, which does provide a lot of robust rail funding. And really the focus this year, the administration really wants to pump this money out. They want ribbon cuttings later this year. They want to get the dollars that are allocated out the door after kind of a stop and start year last year. So right now, the big one, I know we have a project pending under this program, what we call the FSP program, the Federal State Partnership, is out on the street. The applications were due earlier this year. The FRA says they are going to award those early summer. There's two other big grant programs that I think will be submitting projects under the CRISI program and the rail crossing elimination. There's going to be 2 fiscal years worth of funding, so these are going to be big numbers. And these NOFO, the notice of funding opportunities, are going to be dropped any day now. So there's going to be a lot of funding on the street here over the course of the next few months and throughout the year. And then kind of looking forward, I touched on it already, but the key point I wanted to underscore here is that this surface transportation reauthorization bill really sets the funding levels and the framework for where these funds come from and what they're going to look like for the next several years, which is why it's such a big, important, impactful bill for us. The area that we've been really focusing on lately, though, has been sort of the mechanism for funding them. And this thing called, and we'll get too in the weeds on this, but there's this mechanism called advance appropriations, which essentially it's not guaranteed funding. It's as close as you can get to guaranteed funding. It's not formula funding that like the highways receive, but in the rail world, this is as good as it gets. That this was first established under IIJA, and essentially we used to pat ourselves on the back, and if we got $1 billion authorized for CRISI, or for example, but then we'd have to go to the appropriators and hold our hat in hand and say, give us as much as you can. And because of other factors and budgetary constraints, they would say, oh, we can only give you, $100 million, even though they authorized $1 billion. What advance appropriations has done is it has allowed these authorized levels to basically be fully funded at the passing of the bill, which has really given us a lot more rail funding than we've ever had historically. And it's a really important mechanism. So a lot of the groups in DC, trade associations and stakeholders have really been pushing for this to be in this next bill, at least at the funding levels that they are currently. And if the political dynamics allow it, maybe more, but really having this advanced appropriations a key element to this bill. Next slide, please. And I'd be remiss to not mention a couple of the other kind of political items that have the potential to kind of drive the agenda one way or the other. And I always like to insert a little humor and political cartoon here. So apologies for that. But right, so all 4 of these bullets here, just so you're aware, because there is some push and pull with the impact on transportation funding here. I think as everyone's been reading and understands, we're in, about a month and a half into a shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. There's maybe a deal that's been struck. The Senate passed a bill a week ago and just passed another bill again yesterday that sort of funds the department through the rest of the fiscal year, except for some of the ICE enforcement, which the deal that was struck is that will be handled in this reconciliation bill, which is the 4th bullet here that I'll touch on in a moment. But that fight's been sort of ongoing over the course of the last couple of weeks and has the potential to sort of distract a little from some of the other political items and legislative agenda items that that should be on the calendar for the spring. The appropriations bills for this fiscal year, the president just submitted his budget this morning. The House and Senate committees will go through their process. They'll try and get, typically in an election year, they'll try and get as much of this done as they can up until sort of they break for campaign season. And then when they come back post-election in November in the lame duck session, typically these bills get done through a big, omnibus bill or some big, year-end package. And so everyone's sort of gearing up for that to happen. And so this process will play out here over the course of the next few months. And then the last 2 bullets really are sort of unrelated to a lot of the issues that we focus on a day-to-day basis, but they have the potential to really drive the agenda or kind of, derail, other items that could be, legislative vehicles for legislation that we care about. So there's the Iran thing that's obviously happening. There's been rumors that the White House is going to ask for supplemental funding requests for this fiscal year. how that gets passed and how that gets handled, we don't know yet, but that's hanging out there. There's also now this push for another sort of Republican only budget reconciliation bill, which, as you'll recall, this is a way to through a budget mechanism to pass a bill with a simple majority in the Senate. So you only need 51 votes to pass it, as opposed to the 60 votes that you normally have, which means they need Democrats in the Senate to pass it. This is how they passed the one big beautiful tax bill last year, and the president is really keen on using this mechanism to pass some additional ICE enforcement for the next 3 years, sort of gearing up for maybe a switch in Congress, but trying to get that funding locked in. Of course, Congress wants other things sort of tossed in there as well. So this will be a fight that's going to play out over the next few months. The president has requested this on his desk by June 1st. That's a very aggressive timeline. Recall it took them 3+ years longer, or 3+ months, excuse me, longer than the sort of stated timeline last year to get that bill done. So given the calendar dynamics I just mentioned, which, less time in session between now and then, and just sort of the election year that we find ourselves in, this is going to be a pretty heavy lift to get done, especially on that timeline. But again, it has the potential to sort of, grab control of the legislative agenda for the spring and push off other items maybe further down the priority list. Next slide, please. And then lastly, I'm just going to end here. I'm not going to delve too deep into this, but I think it's important just for you all to be aware that this is still very top of mind in DC. The fact that obviously we have a relationship with Union Pacific, as both agencies have to deal with them. The potential first transcontinental merger under the new merger rules under the Surface Transportation Board is a big deal. It's caught the attention of a lot of folks in DC who are, either actively weighing in or monitoring how this is going to play out. So I sort of be remiss to not mention that this has a big impact. I think not just for us as a rail commission, but the ramifications for future consolidation, for passenger rail access going forward. This is a big deal potentially, and if it moves ahead, it's going to be something we're going to need to kind of be keenly aware of and on top of. So I just wanted to mention that as well. The STB right now, there's 3 commissioners. There's a 4th that is under consideration by the Senate. They are appointed by the president, and so right now it's a 2-1 Republican majority. It may be 3-1 with an additional seat still open. And if you move to the next slide, I just tried to show you just a very brief timeline just so you're aware. This is sort of unofficial, so don't take this to the bank. But these are the new merger rules. Under these new merger rules, the STB has to sort of weigh in 13 months from the filing of the application. And so the merger, as you probably saw, was rejected as incomplete. UP has publicly stated they're going to refile at the end of April, end of this month. Assuming that's the case and that happens and the STB accepts it, they will publish an official timeline on what happens next, but they'll have basically 13 months from that date to rule, which puts kind of the key action that we may want to pay attention to sort of in the summer timeframe, where the stakeholders are going to have comment period, and we'll kind of start to see what the feedback is officially and publicly, once that transpires. And next slide, I believe, is my last slide. Okay, yep, I will stop there. I wanted to leave some time for questions. So thanks for the time and the attention, and happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Mr. Ginsburg. Clarifying questions from any commission members? No? Online, Mr. Cap is with us.
Seeing none online?
Okay. I just have a couple questions to your point earlier of the one voice, and we do have a project. One of the things that I noted is your comment on the Surface Transportation reauthorization, and also the push for advanced appropriations, which I think is critical. So as we're talking about our one voice projects, do you recommend that we talk about this option for advanced approach?
Yeah, great question, Matt, there. I think so, yeah. I mean, I really think it is, there's a handful of decision makers in DC who you might be meeting with in that fly-in who will understand this, but I'd say the vast majority of the rank and file members don't fully grasp and understand the importance of it. And I think talking about your projects really brings it home to them. And this is what it means. And we've been through some national groups that we're involved in. We've been trying to just show what that funding has done over the last 4+ years. You all in Congress have approved and advance appropriated this much money. This means these 100 projects in these areas, and it's been really impactful to your state or your district in particular. So I think talking about the projects and then also, advocating for advanced appropriations as a mechanism to continuing this funding is critical. Because if we wind up with a bill that doesn't have that in there, this becomes a political football again, and all the great momentum that the commission and other groups across the country have built are going to be, just it's going to be a step backwards, and we want to continue to grow this program and grow the momentum.
So I assume that because it's under the bigger bill, the reauthorization, this is a benefit not just to rail, but obviously to highways and anything else that falls under the transportation reauthorization. Yeah,
I think it's not unusual for this bill to be tardy. I don't, going back through my sort of historian hat here, I think it was back in the 80s was the last time this bill was actually done on time without an extension. So it's okay that it's not getting done by the end of this year, especially given that it's an election year and there's limited, time to deliberate and get this bill done. But I do think, to your point about these meetings that you're all going to have here soon, I think it's important to reiterate that, having some certainty, if you're going to do an extension, doing a couple months isn't helpful. I think giving them ample time, especially if, they haven't made a lot of progress by then, giving us some certainty, a year or so, or 2 years, whatever it might be, to get this done is important, both on the highway side and on the rail side and all the other surface modes that are impacted. Having some certainty that this funding is going to be there and that it's going to continue in some fashion, and just Congress needs a little additional time to get it across the finish line is really important. There were something like 12 or 13 extensions prior to the bill that predated the IIJA, the FAST Act. There's 13 extensions, some of them, as short as 2 weeks. That doesn't provide rail commission like you all or state DOTs enough cover to feel comfortable that, this funding is not going to lapse or not be there in the future. So I think having certainty is really important.
So can I assume that we could perhaps have Mr. Orlando that would be working with you to get some talking points for us that we can use when we're meeting with our members?
Yep, absolutely.
That'd be great. All right. Any questions from the public or comments from the public?
Seeing none online.
Any in the room? All right. Not so. This is a presentation only. Mr. Ginsburg, thank you very much. I look forward to our opportunities to work with you as we move through this next year of that. So thank you for the work you guys are doing. Give our best to Jason.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Will do. Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, moving on, Mr. Perez, we have a presentation on the benefits on the SJRRC increase.
All right. Morning, Chair. Morning, Commissioners. So it's been 8 years since a fare increase item has been brought to the board. And so with that, I kind of want to give you a presentation on the history of it, why the agency suspended it, how staff essentially assessed to bring it now to the board, kind of bring our recommendation, and then the schedule to get to that. And so here's kind of the background and the history of it. Back in 2012, in general, we opened up a public comment period as part of the process. And back in 2012, there hadn't been a fare increase for about 6 years. And so one of the comments from one of the passengers was they'd like to see more, they wouldn't want a big increase right every few years. They would rather have us do smaller increments, whether it be annually, biannually, it's something like that, just to not be a bigger pension pocket, right? So staff evaluated that, and at the time we have our ACE legacy paper tickets, which are pre-printed tickets, which take 6 to 8 months lead time to order. And so with that, staff determined that a biannual rate increase would probably be a better route to go. And so that's what they started doing. And then to build on that, back in 2019, we established a fair policy, which helps us set the fair strategy, products, and pricing for what we're going to do with our fair. And so this table essentially shows the last 4 fare increases that we've had from 2012 all the way to 2018. Cool fact, I looked at the 2018 and Commissioner Fugazi, Vice Chair Zuber, and Commissioner Marchand, you're all part of that. So that was
Still salt.
So this will be a refresher for you. So by now, so I just want to show that that was a cool fact I saw in that. So why did we suspend fare increases, right? Number one right there would be the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Loss of ridership, definitely the agency was looking to bring back ridership and timing that right with trying to bring the ridership back and then putting a fare increase on. It's just sensitive, right? And just trying to get there. And then as I told you, the long lead time on the procurement of the tickets, right? It takes 6 to 8 months to print those. Usually those orders about, because of the paper tickets, about 500,000 tickets we would order. Staff would have to get those, count them in, cycle the other ones. And then also the timing with the implementation of the new ACE ticketing system we're trying to do. Back in 2023, we went out and started looking for our own ticketing system that we're building currently today. That all sits on a back end and it's digital. So today the paper ticket and the mobile app don't talk to each other. They're different, right? With the paper tickets being printed. On the new system that we're looking to start piloting next week, at least on the station side, the mobile app is going. Those tickets are printed on demand. So there's no more pre-printed stock. There's no more placing an order of 500,000 tickets. What we sell that day is printed that day. And so that makes life a lot easier. And it also helps make these fare increases. We can make a move along quicker. As you could tell on the table I had, there were a couple on there where we voted on it in 2018, but it didn't take place until 2019. I think the 2012 one we voted on in 2012 didn't take place in 2013 because of that ticketing lead time. When you see the schedule, you'll be able to see how quickly we can do this, right? Still in the public mind. It's not like a 6 to 7 month wait and then all of a sudden it happens. It'll still be, we can move it along a lot. So how do we take the time to really say, hey, now is the time to do this? And so with our fair policy, we have our 4 goals, which are financial sustainability, equity, customer experience, and ridership. And right, even though we suspended the fares and the prices, CPI and the cost of things did not suspend, right? Those have only increased since 2019, which I'll show on the table next. And so with that, right, our fare revenue is very important, right? It was at 1.35% of our revenue to support our operating costs, and so that has not been the case since the pandemic. And and so to help us get back to the recovery of fare increase, we set to do that. And then recently, other transit agencies have started implementing fare increases as well, and so that kind of helped back. A lot of them were voted on in 2025, and they even have some implemented to go for the future as well, already set in place. So now it seems to be the right, environment to start implementing fare increases. And so here's the CPI since 2019. And so since then, it's gone to about 23%, right? And that's just all our costs just building up since then. And our fares, again, have decreased not only because of the, because of the pandemic and ridership, right? We haven't done any fare increases since then that even help keep that, and get that gap closer. And so with that, we kind of have a recommendation on what we need to do to get back, right, to help us get back to get closer to the match that CPI. And so we're going to be proposing a 20% fare increase, but bringing that into 2 different increases. One would be a 10% increase on July 1st this year, and then the next would be July 1st, 2027. And then with that, get back to our biannual smaller increases with the passengers were more for. And so kind of here's the schedule of the next steps. Kind of just want to map it out like what you're going to start seeing. So today, right, is just the present information item only on the fare increase. Starting next week, we'll start coordination. Part of our corporate service agreement is we get support from Alameda CTC as well as Santa Clara BTA to support us in the fare increase. So that will be provided to you in our June 5th action item. That will be part of the packet. We're gonna open our public comment period. We're gonna put all the notices out there on April 15th, to open that on April 30th. And so with all that, we'll bring the public comments, the letter of support on their June 5th. And with that action, because of the new ticketing system that we're rolling out, we'll be able to do that July 1st on 2026, rather than, again, if we had the old paper ticket, I wouldn't be able to do it till next year, right? So it's still in the public mind, know it's happening and how it's July 1st, and then we'd be able to do the next one July 1st, 2027. So with that, any questions?
Question from the.
Have one. In that last slide, we had the process. Are we going to include in the April through June process the 2026 increase and the 2027? In
Correct.
other words, by the time we get to July 1st of this year, we will also be approving.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And also another note I didn't notate was we're gonna round it now to the nearest dollar. Today it's quarters, 25 cents, 50 cents, and that's another currency our station sellers have to sell. So the goal is just to make that a nice even dollar as well. And that would be a part of that action.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and we'll still continue with our low income discounted
Yep,
program.
that is still there. Yep.
And just a note on that, so because of where we said we follow the FDA Title VI process for public notice. So that's the notice periods that you see here, along with publishing all the information to the public in English and Spanish.
I've got a question relative to the, more importantly, the annual CPI, because then we don't have to go through this every year. Is the CPI, so these increases would happen each July, correct?
That would be
2027.
correct. Yeah, they were all kind of over the place again because of the longest the order time. Yes, we'd be looking to do it at the beginning of this fiscal year.
So the CPI is based on the current or the prior, how are you looking at the CPI on annual?
So we do the calendar of the most recent one. It's usually by the time we get there, it's in April to April.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I was looking at,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so we'll just have to do this twice and then we're.
Yeah, one clarification, so following, if the commissioners forward with this change, following this, it would be biannual and.
Biannual versus annual, okay. And public, does that require public notice as well?
Yes, yeah, it's no problem. Yes.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yes.
I have my hand up.
I was, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna catch you next, Paul, sorry, okay.
No, you guys aren't showing me the love. I get it.
Hey, you're here to show you the love, yes. So, yeah.
So not necessarily a question, just a comment. One of the things that you had mentioned is other transportation organizations are doing the same, so it seems to be the right environment to do this in. However, I would just caution on saying that, because if every organization thinks in that way, what we're seeing now is a lot of inflation across all organizations, not just transportation. And so while for us, we're looking at a 20% increase over the next 2 cycles, if you equate that into all of the other increases these households are seeing, that could be substantial to them, right? So I would just caution on saying it's the right environment because it's what everyone else is doing. It's potentially the thing to do in order to recuperate what was lost during COVID. But all the other organizations I'm involved in are saying the same exact thing. So that was all.
Thank you.
I've got a follow-up question, but I'll wait until after Mr. Campa and then Mayorsville. So, Mr. Campa.
Thank you. I had a CPI question too. So what was it for this year? I don't know if I missed it on the slides.
2.33. Well, 2025, so what is it?
So that one's a December. Yeah, that one's able to be a December. Yeah.
And then which CPI do you guys use? What is it, like the Bay Area one? I know there's different
Yes.
ones. So which ones do you guys?
We use the Bay Area.
Okay. So is there any projection for this year, what it will be?
That for this year, no, I didn't do one yet. I haven't gotten the data. It was 2025 is the most recent one.
And then we're not including that on the 20%. That's included in the 20%, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Mayor Sullivan?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, what is the average increase per fare across the board that you would see with this 20% increase?
I mean, because we have such a wide range of, like we have I think obviously the biggest impact is going to go to our passenger who travel the longest. So it's Stockton to San Jose. And so the 10% increase would be about almost $40, because that's a $387 ticket right now.
Oh, okay. So I guess my concern is that I know that, we haven't raised fares for a long time, but then all of a sudden we're hitting folks with 20% in 2 years. I wonder if there's other ways to handle that or spread it out over a longer, maybe every 6 months instead of once a year, just to get people used to the increases. And to be honest with you, I think we should have been increasing 2 to 3% regularly, which is, you can't detect that. Whereas hitting 10%, I think that can have an impact. So I don't know if we've done the studies on that or just, but I can see people saying, wait, what? 20% in 2 years? That doesn't make sense. So I just want to get your feedback on that.
That's a good point. I'm sure we'll see those in the public comments too. And we'll bring those back for sure.
Thank you.
If I could follow up on Mayor Dugasky's comment, who qualifies for the low income and how is that calculated in terms of these pathways?
Yeah, so they get a discount, they get the discount price, but we've teamed up with the local center here, and they do all the vetting, and then they provide us with a confirmation that the passenger has been confirmed, and then they're added to they're able to receive that pricing.
Do we have an idea of percentage of passengers that use that program?
Yeah, it's.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's probably about. It's really low. It's about 1%. Yeah, 1% maybe. Yeah, we're been trying to increase it more, but yeah, it's just getting the word out there.
I think that's because they'll experience that same fear.
Correct.
So I think that and it's the issues that Mr. Mike is talking about, and so that would be. I think it's helpful to know that just because it's going to hit that population in the most sensitive way when they're getting other price increases as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm about consistency and making sure that we notice the public that they're aware that there is going to be a rate increase that follows along with CPI down the road. And so we're dealing with, if I recall correctly, Mr. Orlando, most of the transit or most of the rail agencies are dealing with this issue as well.
Yeah, no, we're not the only agency looking at fares, and probably a little bit later to the process than others, just because of some of the financial challenges that many of the agencies have had. So yeah, we're not an outlier in this in the finding.
Okay. Any comments from Mr.
I think it's really quick. I know it's informational today, but when it comes back, I think it'd be really useful to have that information related to the low income programs. And also, I know we're talking about percentages, but Mayor Sullivan's point, it would also be useful to see actual dollar data as well.
Yeah.
Useful. So when it comes back, let's ask for that data as well.
Yeah, perfect.
And just so you know, that is important because of the public process. The commission will see this more times, and so there is an opportunity for us to give public input for the commission to weigh and look at alternatives. So this is the start of the process, not the end of the process. Thank you.
Any comments from the public online? Oh, I'm sorry.
So one of the things that, and I certainly appreciate Commissioner Sullivan's point, but there's this deep-seated cynicism, I think, that we're dealing with. Now, we have not raised rates in 7 years. And nobody remembers if you don't raise rates. But if you come back every 6 months, oh, they're raising the rates again. Oh, it was only 6 months and they raised it again. So if we keep coming back rather than just say, this is what it is, we've absorbed these increases for the last 7 years. And then now we have to raise the rates. So rather than come back every few months and have the public say, oh, they're coming back and raising the rates again. I think you're going to lose some of the trust. We had a school bond issue. There were two different bonds. And we've never lost a school bond issue in Livermore. But they had one increase for one bond, and then they came back 6 months later for another. It failed because it's, oh, well, they just real estate. So you had this cynicism of the population that they didn't recognize that there was a difference, but it still failed. So I think, yeah, this is what it costs. We've absorbed this for the last 7 years. We're already 23% behind. We're coming back from 10% this year. We're going to be 15% behind when we raise it 10% that second year. So we're still not going to catch up. And that's going to be lost to the public. We'll still absorb that, but we're going to have to come back again in another 2 years, at which point we'll be 20% behind, because it'll be another 2 years of 2.5%. So we're still playing catch up. But I would say that, yeah, rather than do it in 6 months increments where public's going to get more cynical, we just say, okay, it's 10% this year, and in 2 years, we're another 10%. So I appreciate the staff, and appreciate where the staff has approached this.
I follow into that sentiment as well. And I think one of the ways to address this, you made the earlier point about passengers indicating, you know, don't do all 20% right at one day opportunity to do it at over time. So I think hence your 10%. Are we reaching out again to the closer we get to having this for public hearing to get feedback from passengers relative to that? Because I would also assume there is a cost to us in terms of a 6 months, you know, it's not free to go out there and put it together and put it up for public hearing and do it every 6 months. There is a cost to us for that as well. So.
Yeah, because we go to advertise at the stations, make sure it's posted in the right places. Yeah, so that's a month-long process, probably 2 months, right, to let passengers know what's happening. So
okay. So I would just assume we're going to move forward with getting more feedback from passengers and addressing floating this idea.
Yep.
I just did want to just add another point. We are in, as the commission knows, the process of developing the budget work plan for the coming fiscal year. You know, in this time period where our costs have gone up, you know, CPI 22%. You know, so we're facing increasing costs. We're also facing constraints on our revenue stream, and our ridership is not where it was in the last fare increase went. And so, as we start to look at the coming fiscal year budget, this adjustment of fares is a really important component of that. And so I think just to keep that context in mind, this isn't us raising fares because, you know, because we are trying. This is us because it's an important component of our overall budget.
I appreciate it. Okay. No more questions. Seeing on the screen. Public comments.
Seeing no public comments online.
Any comments in the room? Seeing none, thanks for the piece of the resolution forward to us. So moving on to Super Bowl impact. So this was actually something I was interested in hearing a little bit more about. So Mr. Lopari.
Yeah, thank you. Well, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. What we prepared for you is an update related to the impact of the Super Bowl on the performance of the ACE service. You heard in your last meeting a presentation related to the special training program and its sort of performance, as well as the Super Bowl was included in that. But this is a different sort of look at the story where understanding the operational impacts that were brought to you, how did those operational impacts then affect this fiscal year's performance that we had forecasted? Now, I will say that effects on performance really do come in a variety of ways. And there are various reasons why ridership could be up, could be down, or revenue could be up, could be down. So we're going to provide you data related to some key points of performance, but there's also probably more discussion to have or more data to mine to really sort of come to the full understanding of the impact. But I think staff has done an excellent job preparing some really key metrics related to the Great America Station itself, like how we saw those impacts in ticket sales and ridership, And then, well, what does that look like when you place sort of the impact over the entire system? And then what does that look like the impact will be when we get to June 30th? So we'll talk a little bit about all of those elements, and then of course have time for questions, or if there's additional insights that you're looking for, we can look for those as well. So just as a background, the Great America Station is a really important hub for ACE. So it is the location where we have a very robust shuttle program that brings passengers from the San Joaquin Valley, from the Tri-Valley into the Silicon Valley, and then they get on these shuttles, and then that gets them almost or really to the doorstep of their employer. This has been a program that's been a part of your service from 1998, from the moment the services started. And so when you look at your ridership distribution across the ACE service, the Great America Station is the highest ridership station within your system because of this shuttle program, because of the employers that are in the proximity of the Great America Station. And so as you sort of like think of the context of what the disruption was that we experienced, I think it's really important context. What happened is the Super Bowl took place adjacent to the station, right? You can see the Levi Stadium from the train window, and they implemented a series of phased road closures over January 5th to February 22nd. And this was really, it impacted the shuttle service, right? That utilizes these roads in and out of the station area. And from January 5th to February 22nd, they were not allowed to use those roads. So they were not allowed to access the station in the way that they normally do. And we knew at that point, as we were nearing January 5th, that this was going to have some level of performance impact, right? Anytime you ask a passenger to do something other than what they're normally accustomed to doing, it's going to create a level of concern and a level of performance impact. And so in response to that disruption, the staff really worked, I would say, tirelessly with all of the partners within the area, with Levi Stadium, with the Bay Area Host Committee, with the NFL, to really find an avenue to adjust operations to keep the shuttle system operating. And you saw presentations regarding this over the course of this period of time. So the shuttles were relocated to a different area, a parking lot about a few blocks away from the Great America Station. And then we also negotiated with Levi Stadium to actually help us with providing staff, for wayfinding and helping passengers get to that location. This did have some impacts, as you can imagine. And now, rather than just sort of walking across the platform up the ramp to where the shuttles are normally, this required them to actually cross the tracks to the other side of the right of way, and then go down a few blocks to get to this area. So it was a really important operational adjustment, but certainly was asking more of the passengers than they would normally do. But really, from a win perspective, this was not really on the table, and the central worked really hard with all the partners to be like, no, we need some way to retain operations. And so this was a really great compromise between all of the parties. So as we sort of then say, okay, that's what happened. What was the impact? So actually, before I get to the impact, we really did also have a really robust rider communication plan. So this is one of the notices that was posted when we started this communication, as all of the details were becoming clear. On December 15th, we really started to get the communication out there to make sure that all the riders were clear of what was happening ahead of January 5th. We used all of the channels that were available to us. So posting things at the station, using all of our own channels, social, website, using the app, onboard announcements, every area that we could utilize to make sure that there wasn't confusion and that the passengers were aware of what was going to happen. Included in that, actually, staff was there on site to help passengers through this operational change when it went into effect January 5th. And then, as I mentioned, there were other staff available there to help with sort of wayfinding and understanding how to utilize this new sort of location. So as you sort of take that in terms of what happened, then let's start looking at some of the data in terms of impact. So Great America Station has an ACE ticketing booth where passengers purchase tickets. That booth is staffed by a third-party contractor who sells tickets on our behalf, has been doing that for a very long time. So as you see here in January and February, when the disruption was taking place, you can see an immediate impact to the number of tickets that were sold at the station. So this is not revenue, this is the number of tickets. So you can see that there's a very immediate impact. I mean, the sales still were strong, but were lagging behind last fiscal year or last calendar year, where typically what we've been seeing this fiscal year is an increase year over year. And then how does that translate then into revenue impact? And as I mentioned, if you sort of look across July through December, sort of the lighter purple bar is above the darker blue bar, really showing that year over year increase month by month, anywhere from 9% to 24% over last year. The performance of the ACE service in sort of all areas, including station ticket sales, has been trending in this direction, right? We've continued to recover more ridership and grow that ridership. But then you see here in January and February, you see the impact of this disruption, where now you saw what were sort of relatively strong increases year over year to about a 6% in January, 8% in February, year over year decrease in the revenue that was taken in at the Great America Station. And this is like, these are like localized numbers for Great America, right? Like the rest of the network is moving, like they're selling, like this is just isolated to this particular location. And then you look at, okay, well, how did that's sort of the ticket sales and the ticket revenue portion of the story. Well, what did it look like from a ridership perspective? So maybe you should actually see in January, there was a very slight increase in ridership at the station. So GAC, sort of the first two sections of the graph, that's Great America. And then the second section of the graph is SC, or Santa Clara Station. And so what you see in January was a very slight increase in the Great America ridership, though we would have anticipated if without this disruption, that would be a much higher increase. And then in February, you see a decrease in ridership at this station. One of the things you'll notice on the graph is that the Santa Clara Station really was increasing in ridership during this period. Actually, as you sort of look at the numbers, the Santa Clara Station was increasing at a rate higher than the rest of the fiscal year. And so what that indicates is that some of the passengers decided to change their travel patterns, and they actually utilized the Santa Clara Station rather than the Great America Station because of the disruption was taking place. But should be noted that those increases at Santa Clara did not make up for the losses that we experienced at the Great America Station. And so then to zoom sort of all the way out from a system perspective, what you see here in the graph is our ridership performance year over year, as well as to the forecast that was in your work program. So what you'll see over the course of the fiscal year, we have been year over year over last year. And a lot can affect a month's performance, including how many operating days we have in that month. So it's not like 1 month in isolation isn't always a great indicator of how performance is going to trend over the entire year, but certainly having month over month, year over year increases each month from July to December really does indicate strong demand, and that performance is trending in the right direction. One of the things you'll notice here is in January and February, there are slight decreases in that trend that we were noticing before, really driven by the impacts that we saw at Great America. What you'll notice in March, and these are sort of provisional numbers for March, you'll see sort of the concrete numbers in March in your next board packet. You see the trend return. So March ridership above last year's March ridership, not yet meeting the forecast line, but we were nearing that forecast line. Now, I will say, sort of back to my point about you can't take 1 month in isolation. Really, the spring months, particularly March and April, are very much affected by spring break travel and spring break time out of office. And it's interesting because that trend is the opposite for the two services that we work with. So Gold Runner is exploding in ridership in March because everyone's traveling leisurely for their spring break travel, including students going home. And then ACE typically has a receding of ridership because folks are home with their families, like during their time off. So we probably don't have the end of the story for spring performance until you add April into that. And understand last year, April Easter was at the end of April and had more impacts in the April month than in March. So I think that's something to note. But a positive to note that the March trend was up and we're headed back in the right direction. So then what does that look like from kind of a year-to-date perspective? Where are we at? So if you sort of look here at the small table on the left of the screen, right now, year over year, we're still up 10% in terms of year-over-year ridership growth. That's a really positive mark for ACE, continuing double-digit growth year over year. From a forecast perspective, we're down about 2% in ridership based off of the forecast. Now, there's still a quarter of performance that's left to be reported in this period, in this fiscal year. And from all of the trends that we're seeing, that 2% can very easily be made up like in the last quarter of this fiscal year. So I think that we still have opportunity to make up what was lost, like from the disruption. So just as a summary, the impacts to performance were really temporary, and they were localized in the Great America area as well as January and February. Right now, from a budget impact, really looks to like low to moderate. We're probably going to make back the losses that we saw, and really I think that the trend is back in the positive direction. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from commissioners? Here, any online? Seeing none, I've got just one or two. I think I know that when you said some of our customers changed to Santa Clara Station. So when I look at something like this, that disruption, what were the lessons we learned? And you may be able to share more, but one perception I have is that pushing the option to go to the Santa Clara Station is easier, could be something that when a big event occurs again, which it will happen, that is an option to offer rather than just talking about, and I don't know if you did that or not, but that is an option. You can go to the Santa Clara Station, pick up the shuttle there as you might have done, and there may be changes to your commute, which shuttle you take and so forth, but that would be a positive that I appreciate you showing that we got more stops at Santa Clara. And then the second one is it's always a balance issue. So for like to be a month and a half, that's a pretty long time frame for disruption of service. If there's any look at the revenue that we got from the special trains as an offset against that as well, because hey, it's great. We're celebrating. We've got the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to be part of that. We offer an additional service. So I would always factor that in as well for what we lost in terms of the convenience to our passengers. So I think that's important for us to see whenever we have these major events, moving forward, what our operations plan is going to be to lessen that impact and create more opportunity and options for our passengers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any public comment?
Seeing none online
in the room? None? Thank you very much for that update. Okay, now we are moving to board member comments. Any comments from any commission members?
Yes, I brought this up at COG, but this is probably the better place to bring it up. I was in Morocco for 10 days. And they have a dual train system. They have they call it a bullet train. And you have first and second class, and it's double decker, and you can literally get from all the big cities in a fraction of the time. And then they have their regular train that makes incremental stops all along the way, and everybody's packed in there like sardines. But that is their main, mode of transportation between cities. Because the roads are not really in good conditions outside of that. I mean, some of them are, but they have a monarchy, so some projects have started and not finished. But what I found interesting was how gigantic their train stations were, and where you buy your tickets, and there was a McDonald's and a Starbucks in every single terminal. There, but they were beautiful, and I sat there and I thought to myself, wow, why don't we have that? But when I went to the university there, that's what the president of the university asked me. He asked about rail, and luckily I had all the swag, and I said, well, you can have it. So I started putting out all the pins and all the swag, and then he kind of felt, oh my gosh. So then he had his assistant go in the cupboard and get her something. Then they brought me some swag, but just he was very interested, and he couldn't understand why we wouldn't have a higher speed train. I mean, we're the number one country in the world, by my respects. Most people in here as well. But they're developing, third world country in many respects, and it's just like, wow. I said, well, we started it, I don't know how many decades ago, and how many decades it has yet to be finished, but if it is, but I just was really impressed with it, and thought this is how it could be. And so the students that were there, because my niece is a international, she has a fellowship there, and she kept saying, when are we gonna have that? When are we gonna have that? And she went to UOP, graduated from UOP, gave the commencement speech, vice president there, and I really told her, well, it's a matter of political will and money. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I said, we're over here, you have a king, and if the king says, this is what I want, it's what the king gets.
Benefits of the monarchy.
Yes, so I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share that because everybody does the trains. They've got taxis lined up, for when people get off the train, or need to get on the train. And depending on how many number of bags, that's what the taxi driver would charge. It wasn't like per taxi, and if there were 3 people and 3 bags, the price just went up exponentially. But anyway, it was great. I enjoyed it, and I love their train system. And I said, we have a great train system too. We just don't have that bullet train yet. So, and that's it. Thanks.
Sure, I appreciate it. Just 2 items. One, I know, Mr. Orlando, you're working to get a presentation to FJCOG on where we are. Particularly more. When the date gets set, I know there are some of us that are in COG. If you could make sure to share that so that I might ask all of our commissioners to attend, so that we can demonstrate, we are there in partnership with COG to move forward an agenda for rail.
It is said it's April 23rd.
April 23rd, okay, so I'd ask that as many of you as possible. The meeting starts at 4 o'clock, so we will look forward to.
And we usually are done by 4:30, so if you don't show up. Really?
Yes.
Which day is that?
April 23rd, it's a Thursday. Yeah, it's a Thursday. And then the other, just a follow on, because I won't be actually going to One Voice, but I will be meeting the district, this, and not just necessarily during One Voice. So I would like us to start orienting with the redistricting. We have a lot of new members that we need to orient to what Valley Rail is doing. So it would be good to have some informational packets that I could use to sit down but certainly at least the 3 representatives that represent the city of Lodi, but we have, and I appreciate you having shared, the list of all of those representatives, in the Central Valley and Bay Area that we are counting on. We have a number that sit on, transportation, and we have a few that sit on appropriations. So we have to get this across to both of those that align with what we're talking about when we're at. So it'd be great to have, you know, a couple of 1-pagers to show what we've done in their districts, so they become oriented to that, and then what we would like to work with them to have in place for future funding and policy. Other than that, if we can go on to ex officio comments, I'm glad to see that we are fully staffed with members here. So we'll start with Mayor Swallen. You want to chat with us?
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to announce that we have a new executive director, and that is Amber Collins, and she started on Monday. She is on this meeting and was going to introduce herself if she could be allowed to enter.
Yes, I am promoting to panelists now.
Oh, hello, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much and good morning. Happy to be here and introduce myself as the new executive director of Stanislaus Council of Governments. As Mayor Zuellen said, I was appointed in March and officially started the job this Monday. Me personally, I have almost 2 decades working in transportation in California in both the private and public sectors, in planning and policy, funding and delivering, in project delivery and multimodal projects, working in local and regional with and for local and regional governments. And actually in my previous position, I worked directly with SJRRC on many funding efforts. And so I'm really familiar with its programs and recent efforts. And I was also able to meet Mr. Orlando, your CEO, who presented at StanCog's March board meeting where I was appointed, and he provided an update on the Valley Rail program and your phasing plans. And I really appreciated the presentation and the transparency on the current strategy. So I look forward to being a partner and with StanCog and working alongside SJRRC to implement its programs and services and how we plan for services in our region in the future. So thank you for letting me provide this introduction.
Thank you, Ms. Collins, and congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, we can move on to Mr. Niblock with us, SJCOG.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I am Ryan Niblock, Deputy Director at SJCOG. Just some recent updates that at the SJCOG March Policy Board meeting, the board approved funding for a few rail commission projects, including $165,000 for state of good repair purposes, $2 million for the ACE Rolling Stock Capital Spares project, and $2 million for the San Joaquin Street Station exterior paint, striping, and lighting improvements project. Also just wanted to share that the countdown for the San Joaquin One Voice trip is on. We'll be visiting DC together in about a month, May 4th through 7th, to advocate for San Joaquin projects, programs, and items of regional significance. So that will include advocating for the Rail Commission's project submission, which was the San Joaquin Street Station layover track project. And it also includes advocating for more transit funding in the surface transportation reauthorization, specifically advocating for preserving and enhancing discretionary grant funding, as well as sustaining and enhancing the historic contribution to transit programs from the Highway Trust Fund. So that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Moving on to Mr. Baxter, what do we have as an update from RTD?
Good morning, Madam Chair, directors. I'd like to share that on March the 23rd, RTD signed and submitted a support letter for the Rail Commission's grant application, requesting $50 million from the California State Transportation Agencies known as CALSTA Cycle 8 Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. And as I understand it, if awarded, and we certainly hope that is the case, that the money will help support a couple of the Valley Rail projects. So we're collectively hoping and wishing the very best outcome with that grant application. On another note here, we're currently our system-wide ridership that includes all of the fixed routes here in Stockton and the intercity connectivity services that we provide with Van Gogh and the Hopper services. Currently, we're about 81% ridership of the pre-pandemic level. So that means today we have about just a little bit over 10,000 riders per day in the system. And pre-pandemic, we were about 12,500. So that's good news. We're continuously working very diligently to market our services and to increase our ridership. And lastly, I just want to commend and say congratulations on the uptick for March for the ACE service. And I think that's wonderful. So I hope that all of us can get back to the pre-pandemic levels soon. So with that, I want to wish all of you a great weekend. If I can ever be of any service, let me know. I'm here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baxter. And lastly, Caltrans, Mr. Dumas.
Thank you. Last but not least, but thank you. I appreciate that, everyone. Ken did steal a little bit of my speaking points regarding CalSTA, and just a reminder that those applications are due May 14th. And if you need anything from our office, please reach out. And just a reminder, you guys have had pretty good success. Your last cycle, you got about $71 million. So hopefully this next round will be just as successful. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife has released a call for applications for the 2026 Fisheries Restoration Grant Program. These funds are to enhance and protect salmon and steelhead habitat. Projects that support the implementation through planning, monitoring, outreach, and education are available. They're eligible. There's $16 million available, and those applications are due next week. So if anybody's got anything, hope you're on the way there. Other than that, just wanted to remind everybody we've got a long-term construction on Highway 4 at the Old River Bridge. That'll be one-way traffic through the end of November. And we suggest that auto travelers check your trip and maybe make alternate plans. And also that if you are towing a vehicle or driving an RV that's over 34 feet long, please take an alternate route, such as Highway 12, or go down to I-205 and the 580 to get over to the Bay Area. Also, next week, Crosstown will have a lot of construction at night. They're going to be closing the ramps that east and westbound for connector for paint restriping and some other work, and that the work will all be done between 8 and 6 in the morning. So if you're going to be traveling in that area, please try to make that trip earlier in the day. Other than that, hope everyone has a great holiday this weekend. Thank you.
All right, moving on to
just a couple quick items. First, I'd like to invite Director of Rail Services, David Smith, up to do a point introduction.
Good morning, everyone. I am very, very happy to introduce Juan Gonzalez. He is our Facilities and Maintenance Superintendent. Juan, you can wave your hand. He joined the Rail Commission about 3 weeks ago to fill a very important position. So thank you, Juan, and welcome.
Thank you.
And then just a couple brief items. First, you all will, those that are here in the room will know we are almost complete with our overall station renovations, at least the public facing portion. So the boardroom here has been made. So we're very happy with that. Just one minor addition, the carpet will be done by your next meeting. So we'll have the carpet, so we'll be ready to go here. Some of the staff portions of the building are still being worked on, but the public facing portions are all completed now. Couple note about coming, we are in the booking season right now for our school trips. So these are the trips that your schools from your communities take in Great America. Those are being booked right now, starting in May. Really important program, not only to help local schools get students to Great America, but also for us, it's an opportunity to talk about road safety and to grow some new riders. So really excited that's coming up, and we're back in that season. And then just wanted to make sure the commission knows that we are a bit off cycle at our next commission meeting. It will be a week earlier, on a Thursday, so we're 30 to at 8:30 a.m. It's a little bit off cycle. We had some scheduling challenges for the May meeting, so we're meeting a week earlier. So just make sure, please know that we'll be here and as always. Just wanted to make sure that all that else we should clarify the scheduling change.
Just to clarify, we got a forum for that.
We have a plan, yes, it's what.
Thank you for the accommodations. All right, great.
And that is all I have.
Thank you very much. I think at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to council for in the closed session.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have one item on closed session, that is agenda item 11, total employee performance evaluation and conference with labor negotiators pursuant to government code sections 54957 and 54957.6. The agency designated representative is Board Chair Lisa Frank Hensley. Unrepresented employees, General Counsel, and it is regular voting members of the commission only.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the closed session and thank you all for getting some lunch.
He does medical because around.
We are ready to go. Good to go, okay. We're back to general meeting session, right? The commission during closed session completed the annual employment review for General Counsel Janice Magditch. We directed the chair and the CEO to execute an amendment to the employment contract providing a 6% increase effective July 1, 2025. So that is the outcome of the closed session, that being the only item, meaning we are at the point to accept adjournment of this meeting. And so I missed my clock, by the way, at 10:23, the meeting of the Rail Commission is adjourned. Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
So now I have to